Hey, this is Mike Sugula from TrueTheory.com and welcome to another episode of True Spirituality. So True Spirituality is my series where I talk about metaphysics, esoteric ideas and teachings, mysticism, shamanism, consciousness, spirituality, psychedelics, a little bit of everything. So if you like these types of topics, welcome. If you are new here, please subscribe. And let's just get straight into the topic. So today we will talk about what's going on currently between Iran and Israel. What is the connection with the most recent eclipse that was on 8th of April, and some of my previous predictions and how they correlate to what's happening now. So on the 3rd of April 2024, I published this video, which was basically my analysis of the significance of the full solar eclipse event that happened on the 8th of April. And I said in that video that these types of celestial events and different types of alignments, astrological alignments, numerological dates, etc., sometimes they signify some kind of periods that might begin, some kind of energies that can be harnessed for good or for bad, etc. And I actually mentioned that the dark side, the negative forces, are trying to use this event, this period now, to trigger some kind of new event, conflict, things like that. The way that, especially the negative, the dark side operates is that they try to create negative scenarios, very often using specific alignments, specific astrological alignments, specific celestial events, specific numerological dates, etc. I gave some examples and I included the most recent strike on Iranian embassy. So on the 1st of April, there was a strike in Syria that killed some Iranian officials and destroyed the embassy, Iranian embassy. And some top generals, Iranian generals, died there. And this was apparently done by Israeli forces. So I said that this is one of those kind of triggers that the dark side, the negatives, they try to, as they say, pour gasoline into the fire basically and try to create a trigger event coinciding with the eclipse, actually, with this period, to start some kind of new period or conflict, whatever, right? Because this is the energy of, darkness, it's kind of volatile, etc. And they try to take advantage of that to escalate conflicts and things like that, right? For example, just recently, Israel actually killed some Iranian officials in Syria. This is another one of those attempts where they're trying to trigger some kind of massive event that would cause another, retaliation, etc. But my perspective is that even if anything would start, it wouldn't escalate into something like a World War III or anything like that. This is what they would love to have, but even if something's going to happen, it's not going to last long enough. That's my perspective, because in my view we are on a positive timeline, so that means there will be these attempts, there might be some conflicts starting, but they will not escalate into a full-blown World War III scenario, for example, which is the goal, basically. I said that it is unlikely to happen, that this will escalate, and even if it will escalate, it won't bring a World War III scenario, which is the desired goal, by the way. So, unfortunately, it triggered some event, and last night Iran actually sent missiles and drones towards Israel and made a strike. And actually, this is like the only time apparently ever that Iran would directly attack Israel. Now, Israeli apparently were able to intercept the missiles, etc., but everyone who is familiar with the whole situation in the Middle East knows that this technically could be a beginning of a massive conflict because of the fact that, Israel has a support of US and other nations, France, etc., and Iran has support in Arab countries, etc. Now, another thing that I predicted in this video that I'm talking about was that I said that we might expect some major earthquakes in April. By the way, there might be some earthquakes around April and actually literally within 2 days, the next day or the next 2 days after I published the video, there was apparently the biggest earthquake in New Jersey and New York area in 140 years. And there was another one in Taiwan, which was the largest in 25 years, and there were some other ones in India, etc. Now, let me give you some updates on this whole situation and what are my further predictions, let's say, and why I was able to predict these things and what is my view on this whole thing. So, my view is that what we are going through at the moment is what in the Bible is predicted as the apocalypse or the end times. But we are having a very mild version of that, let's say. Because the version of that depends on the timeline we are in. So there can be a hardcore apocalypse or there can be a super soft version of that, let's say. And we are having a very soft version. Another interesting thing is that some people say that the 4 horsemen in the book of Revelations also symbolize these different stages of the apocalypse, right? So, for example, we have the first horseman supposedly symbolizes disease, the second symbolizes war, etc. I'm not really deep into this whole thing with the 4 horsemen, but I heard about it already several times over the years, and based on my perspective, maybe there's something to it because, if you would look at this whole transition, first you had COVID, right, which is the disease, right, the first horseman, and literally when the whole COVID hysteria started going down, boom, stage number 2 emerged, which was the war between Russia and Ukraine started. So literally, like the first thing was, 2 years of the COVID hysteria started going down. Boom, February 2022, the new thing started getting into a very dangerous war that has potential implications of starting a World War III scenario. So now let's get into like what I mean when I talk about like the soft version, hard version, the timelines, etc. So I've been getting insights about the timeline for Earth basically for a couple of years already, and a lot of it came through actually my psychedelic experiences where I would be shown timelines, for example, or I would get to a level where I could see the timelines from that level. So I could literally get to a very high state of consciousness where I could see everything what is happening on Earth simultaneously. And I could see, it's very difficult to describe, but basically, this is something I've been interested in for many years, and I was getting all sorts of insights about it. So for me, this was pretty obvious when COVID hit, when, this war started. I knew about these things way in advance that they're gonna unfold. I did not exactly know in what form, how it's gonna look like, but I was getting warnings about it for a long time. So even just before the war between Russia and Ukraine, like literally week or 10 days before it started on 24th of February 2022. Just like a week or 10 days before, I actually had a dream with some kind of bombardment of rockets, and I thought, oh, okay, this is the meaning, because I normally get dreams about these things as well. So when they are about to happen, things like that. And I actually got a dream about just last night about what's the potential situation here as well. So I'm gonna tell you in a second. But basically, before the conflict between Ukraine and Russia, I had a dream like 10 days or something before something's about to happen. And because I understood these timelines for a long time, I knew this is probably gonna mean the war is gonna start. And literally, boom, 24th of February, it started. Now, I knew that the next possible, let's say, a trigger point, which is now, what happened now, I calculated it to be probably in November, because it's always about like these important numerological dates and alignments. So for example, when you had the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, it was 24th of February 2022, right? It's just 2 days after 2222, right? You have 22/02/2022, right? Very important numerological date. These things are periods, right? It doesn't mean that exactly on that day something's going to happen, but it's a kind of a frame for a period. Same like with this most recent eclipse. So I felt like, okay, if there's going to be another tipping point trigger that's going to take it farther, let's say, I thought it's probably going to be either September, but more likely November, mid-November, because 11/11, 13th of November, these are very important dates as well. And typically, sometimes, the next phase might happen around that. This was just my kind of intuition. And then what happened actually halfway through November 2022 was that there was a missile that entered Polish airspace and killed 2 people. And the blame initially went towards Russia. Then it was apparently that probably it was a Ukrainian defense accident. Nothing escalated from that. But that was a tipping point, right? That was the trigger moment. So if we would be on a negative timeline, right? The bad version, the full-blown version of the apocalypse, let's say, this event from mid-November 2022 would actually trigger probably a further conflict, maybe Poland getting involved in the war, etc., right? And Poland obviously has NATO and EU and other allies and things like that, right? But when we are on the positive timeline, let's say, so we are experiencing the mild version of the apocalypse, let's call it this way, then these triggers are not escalating into the full-blown scenario, which would be the World War III. So now, coming back to what just happened with Iran attacking Israel, I found out about it last evening. I came back home in late evening, and I just saw it, right, just before going to sleep in Europe, right? It was evening in Europe. And I had a dream, actually, at night, showing me potential scenario here. So, if you watch some of my content, you might know, but basically, just for those of you who might not be familiar, I get a lot of insights about different things, including things in my life and sometimes global events as well, sometimes in form of dreams. And it's been happening for like a long time. Mostly it's always personal things, but sometimes something big as well. And this has been going on for, 15 years or something. So when there's something concerning, I might have a dream about it where it's very symbolic. So I interpret my own dreams in my own ways, because obviously these are my archetypes. They are always symbolic. You might want to watch my video about dream interpretation, because basically we have these general archetypes and individual archetypes. So the meaning of the dream for me is unique. because it comes from my psyche, it comes from things that are familiar to me. So basically, let me give you a quick summary of what happened. And this is obviously, like I said, to many people might not make sense, but it makes sense to me because I know how my psyche works and I know how to interpret these things because I've been doing it for 15 years. But basically, I had this dream where there was some group of people. It was like a kind of moment before conflict or brawl would start. And every person was represented by a country, right? So, this is the symbolism of the situation now. Because Israel has allies, US, etc. Iran has allies, etc. So this was kind of symbolic in my dream, where I was actually, in the dream I was Poland, and other guy was Lithuania, wherever, which is like neighboring country. But remember, this is just through my prism, so that's probably meant Israel and Iran in this case. And there were other guys who basically were representing different countries, and me and the guy who was like, I was Poland, the guy was Lithuania, we started argument, and the Lithuanian guy choked me like pretty badly. I went on the floor. Then we stood up and we continued like heated discussion, but it did not escalate into like a full brawl, which if it would escalate into a full brawl, my interpretation of the dream, then it would be that, this would mean that the conflict would escalate into a full World War III scenario, something like that. But it kind of looked pretty bad, but then it continued. It didn't escalate, like everyone kind of shut up and the discussion continued, something like that, which according to this is my interpretation of that dream is that maybe there's going to be something going on for a while. Who knows? I cannot tell you how long, how serious it's going to get, but it's not going to escalate into World War III, which is the most important thing. So this is what I think. I cannot give you like crazy predictions way ahead because we are constantly changing timelines. We are shifting into different versions of reality all the time. So I don't think it would be accurate to give some kind of long-term predictions. I cannot really tell you how serious it's going to be, how long it's going to last. But my view is that it's not going to get that bad. Or, it's not going to get into like some full-blown World War III scenario. It's a little bit like what's happened so far, let's say, with like Russia and Ukraine, it became a local war and not something major, right? And maybe this is going to be like that. I don't know. Maybe it's going to finish soon. I have no idea. I'm not able to make these predictions. But I just want to say for people to not worry about a full-blown conflict or anything like that. Now, I want to say one of the most important things, I talk about the timeline a lot. So the timeline is, if you don't know, like you might want to watch my other video about the timelines, but basically the version of reality that we are experiencing now, whether it's like I said, the Apocalypse full-blown version or the soft one, is linked to our collective behavior, let's say. So you are experiencing your own timeline, your own version of reality. And to change that, so these things might be happening there, but they might not be affecting you so much or more or less, right? But really the whole key about not having these events blown into a full scenario is really when we change ourselves, because the version of reality, you're shifting into versions of the dream all the time. This is a dream, nothing more. And the version of that dream depends on how you act, how you behave. You are literally impacting everything what's going on over there. So the key is to first stop living in fear, because this is the dark side loves that. They want to trigger that, they want that timeline. So they try to make people angry, put all that conflict on the news all the time so people get scared or angry, etc. Live in fear, be in low vibrations, which is exactly what they want. And this is, the more we are in those vibrations, the more we are shifting into negative timelines. So we are actually contributing and creating that. So you want to stay away from that. And really the key is that you need to become more service to others, because when you become more service to others, you polarize yourself in a positive way, and then you are shifting to positive timelines. This is the big secret. The secret is that we need to start changing ourselves and acting differently. Be more service to others and work on raising our frequency. And these events just not gonna happen or gonna be very mild. So this is my takeaway from this video. Hoped this makes some sense to what I'm saying. Also, guys, my company is going through a lot of challenges at the moment because we've been heavily censored. And check out what's going on at truetheory.com/support. Watch my video there, because we need your help at the moment to continue doing this work. And if you are someone who cares and who finds value in some of the content I'm creating, please consider supporting my work at truetheory.com/support. See the video there, or share it at least, and let me know what you think about it in the comments. And thanks for watching another video from True Theory. Until next time.